Hey, how's it going? It's Keith Townsend from the CTOadvisor.com. We're still at HPE Discover, creating some really great content. And speaking of content, I have the king of content,
Right.
the gorilla guys of content, the mega cast. You guys do some great work.
Thank you.
Over at ActualTech Media. I'm amazed just about how much content you guys churn out. This is Scott Lowe, other Scott Lowe on Twitter, CEO of ActualTech Media. Scott, thanks for joining the program.
Thanks for having me.
So we're at HPE Discover, and right before we started recording, I asked the question, what do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about big industries, big trends in the industry? And your reaction was, no, let's talk about
GreenLake.
GreenLake, HPE GreenLake. That seems like the big news coming out of Discover.
It's one of those things where I don't think a lot of people know about it yet, but I think it's going to be a hidden weapon in HPE's arsenal as they move forward. It's really, when we talk about over the years, when people started talking about cloud, they talked about this idea of utility computing and things like that, where basically IT was going to get taken over and just treated like electricity. And that hasn't come to fruition. I see GreenLake as a potential progression to actually get there.
Right.
And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
So
it takes IT out of some of the infrastructure issues.
You're a former CIO.
I am.
And you've had these financial instruments in the past where financial tools, contracting tools, where you can buy capacity at different stages. One of the big questions that I've gotten on Twitter is how is this different? Like, can you break that down for us?
Yeah, the way I see it as being different is when we look at a lot of the other solutions on the market, it's all about the technology. It's still a technology-centric approach. When we look at GreenLake, it's a services-centric approach. And so we're looking at a combination of technology plus services. So in a lot of ways, it's a managed service play. But it's one that actually brings the entire power of eventually the entire HPE portfolio to bear. So if you want to deploy a new application, it's basically, what's that going to mean? You go to your service arm and say, what does this mean? They tell you, here's the additive cost per month, and you just simply increase your invoice that much.
And I think that's the part that people are having a hard time wrapping their head around. You think about how big HPE still is.
Oh yeah. HPE
is a massive company. We talk to people who are consuming services from .next and all the way to Superdome. Being able to offer all of their services via this consumption model,
it's huge.
It's huge. So the back end, think about it.
The complexity is massive.
If I want to, consume storage on a per petabyte or per gigabyte perspective, and that storage is not necessarily 3-part storage, it's not Primera storage, but it's Scality, which is an OEM partner of HPE. How's that financial relationship worked out on the back end?
Yeah, if you look at HPE, they've got a huge number of partners. I forget what they call this portfolio program, but they're bringing them all into, a lot of them into GreenLake, which means that HPE and the company that they're working with has to have a incredibly detailed understanding of all of the different touch points of their solution so they can charge appropriately for it, so they can still obviously make money at it.
And that customers find it appealing enough to buy by the dream. Give me the extreme example of what you envision a ultimate GreenLake solution being.
So I think that to its potential progression, it means that the CIO is no longer responsible for infrastructure beyond writing a check. There's no IT infrastructure staff. It's all being handled by GreenLake or by a partner. And basically, the IT department becomes business analysts, which is really what a lot of organizations want. So if you look at digital transformation efforts, for example, business analysts are where it's at because they have that customer centricity with an understanding of the technology and what the technology can do, that they don't have to go do it themselves. And I think there's some serious potential for something like a GreenLake. And I almost think about this as what private cloud should have been.
Yes.
Because if you think about the cloud, you don't have to worry about the infrastructure. Private cloud is a lot of people involved in the private cloud. But what if it doesn't have to be? What if it's still people, but it's all just a check you write?
What HPE Helium should have been. So Scott, if people wanted to find out much more about ActualTech Media and consume some of the fine content that you create, how do they do that?
Go to ActualTechMedia.com or our blogging site, ActualTech.io. Follow us on the Twitters and LinkedIn and all those good places. Attend some of our MegaCast events and learn about what's happening in the industry.
All right, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to watch another CTO Dose. You can find more CTO Advisor content at thectoadvisor.com. Talk to you next CTO Dose.